So I think Braja Mataji was meant to give in class, but she's unable to do it, so we've been thrown into the hot seat. Okay, so we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's working outside, is it? Speaker?
No.
It's not? Okay. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Questions by King Parikshit, text number 17. Ham Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ham Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ham Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yugani Yugamanam Cha Dhammayascha Juge Juge Avatara Nucharitam Yat Aschayat Mahari Yugani Yuge Manam Cha Dhammayascha Juge Juge Avatara Nucharitam Yat Aschayat Mahare. Word for word, Yugani, the different ages, Yugamanam, duration of each age, Cha, as well as Dhammaha, the particular occupational duty, Yacha, and which, Yuge Yuge, in each and every Yuga, or particular age, Avatara, the incarnation, Anucharitam, and the activities of the incarnation, Yat, which, Aschayatamam, the most wonderful activities, Hadehe, of the Supreme Lord. Translation, Perfect Line, Gusisi Bhagavatam, Swami Shubhapadi Ki. Translation, please explain all the different ages in the duration of the creation and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. Translation, please repeat. Please explain all the different ages in the duration of the creation and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. Purport. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and all incarnations of the Supreme Lord, although non-different from him, are emanations from the Supreme. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from the great and learned Sukadeva Goswami about the different activities of such incarnations so that the incarnations of the Lord might be confirmed by his activities in the authoritative scriptures. Maharaj Parikshit was not to be carried away by the sentiments of the common man to accept an incarnation of the Lord very cheaply. Instead, he wished to accept the incarnations of the Lord by symptoms mentioned in the Vedic literature and confirmed by an acharya like Sukadeva Goswami. The Lord descends by his internal energy without any obligation to the laws of material nature, and thus his activities are also uncommon. The specific activities of the Lord are mentioned, and one should know that the activities of the Lord himself are identical due to being on the absolute plane. Thus, to hear the activities of the Lord means to associate with the Lord directly, and association with the Lord directly means purification from material contamination. We have already discussed this point in the previous volume. So we're hearing Marge Prikshit speaking, or inquiring from Sukadeva Goswami. For those who are perhaps not familiar, Marge Prikshit was cursed to die within 7 days by a snake bite. And he was the emperor, practically of the whole world at that time, 5,000 years ago. And but he wasn't simply a king, he was what can be said to be a Raja Rishi. Raja means king, Rishi means sage or saint. So he wasn't simply involved in diplomacy and affairs of the kingdom, he was also a great devotee of Krishna. So therefore, when his notice came that his duration of life was going to end in 7 days, he immediately gave up all his kingly duties and responsibilities, and he inquired from his Brahmana ministers, so what is my duty, responsibility at this time? And there was some discussion, but they couldn't come to any solid conclusion. So by divine arrangement at that time, this child saint, Sukadeva Goswami, appeared, and he was immediately recognised by the whole assembly as the most qualified person to speak. So Marge Prikshit, he asked, like we heard yesterday, he asked these 2 questions, that what is the duty of a person who is about to die? And what is the duty of all people in all circumstances? So particularly pertinent for him is what is the duty for the person who is about to leave their body. So sooner or later we're all going to come into that situation. For some, perhaps it's going to be completely unexpected. 1 minute we're just minding our own business and the next minute we're gone, pushed out of our body. Others, they might be given some notice, they have some terminal disease or whatever, and they're given some notice and they can prepare. But either way, one thing that's 100% certain is that the death rate is always 100% in this world. And so that applies to all of us. Of course, when we're very young and energetic and got so many plans, perhaps it's not such an urgent thing, but nevertheless, it's not that we all give up our bodies in our older age. Some years ago I was in Perth and I was presenting a history. It was, I think, the 30th anniversary of the installation of the deities there. So I put together an audio-visual presentation of the history of the Perth Temple. And I was actually surprised going through all the different people, devotees who were part of that community over the last 35 years, and a lot of them had actually passed away, more than I actually realised, and none of them were particularly old, And recently, a few months ago, also at the, I think it was the 40th in Radha Gopinath, was that the 40th anniversary? 50th anniversary installation of Radha Gopinath. And so Krishna Kirtan Prabhu put a presentation of the history and also showed a lot of the departed devotees, and none of them were particularly old either, So it's not that we necessarily have a long life, but nevertheless, a short life full of Krishna consciousness is far more valuable than a long life of ignorance. So regardless of how long we have, if we're utilising this human form of life to its most optimum purpose, then we're going to be in a very secure position when we eventually have to leave this life. So just addressing some of these inquiries, so Marge Prikshit, he's asking Sukadeva Goswami to please explain all the different ages in the duration of the creation. So these ages or yugas. So in the Western concept of time, time is linear. It starts off at a certain point and then it just goes on ad infinitum. That's the Western concept of time. The Vedic concept of time is that it's cyclic. That like a cycle or a circle, in a circle there's no beginning or end, it just repeats itself. So the cycle of the 4 yugas, so Satya Yuga, or the Golden Age, Treta Yuga, the Silver Age, the Dwapara Yuga, Bronze Age, and the Kali Yuga, Iron Age. So this gold, silver, bronze, copper, iron, it just gives some sort of indication of the qualities of the persons who were living that age, and the quality of, like the quality of life and the environmental factors, etc., etc. It's just to give it a bit of indication. Obviously, gold is best. Iron is not so good. Silver and copper, they're in between. Or bronze, they're in between there somewhere. So along with those 4 yugas, there's also 4 religious principles that apply with those. So the 4 regulative principles, which when devotees they take initiation, they vow to follow these 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. So each one of those activities apply to one of those 4 yugas. So obviously in the Satya Yuga, Golden Age, everybody is naturally following all these, regulations. It's not that they have to be told or make a vow. They're naturally pure in heart to follow these. But as the yugas progress, things become a bit more degraded until we're in the Iron Age, the Kali Yuga, and it said there's only one regulative principle that to some degree or not is being followed. So what is that one? It's truthfulness, yes. So one example of that is particularly in rural areas like around Tweed Valley, wherever you go you find honesty boxes. So it means that people are putting their wares out with the faith that people will come and take their goods and put money in the box. So obviously there's enough honest people that, they're willing to do that, because I've heard stories that, farmers, they complain that they take all the stock plus the money box as well. So, Kali Yuga, even truthfulness is reducing. But nevertheless, these qualities are associated there with those yugas. So the whole idea of cyclic time is these yugas are repeating themselves. So Kali Yuga, how long is Kali Yuga? 432,000 years. And so it's said that we're about 5,000 years into it. So Krishna, he was on the planet for 125 years, and the day that he left the world was considered to be the first day of Kali Yuga. And so that was about 5,000 years ago. So we see that even in our short lifetimes, how, degraded in so many ways human society is becoming. So you can only imagine 432,000 years from now how much worse it's going to be. 12th canto gives a description of Kali Yuga, and I can say we don't want to be there at that time. But so that's 432,000 years. The previous Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, it lasts for about 864,000 years or so. So it's double Kali Yuga. And Treta Yuga is about 1.2 million years. So it's 3 times Kali Yuga. And Satya Yuga is about 1.8 million years. So that's so altogether, the length of Kali Yuga times 10 will give you the total time of that 4 cycles. So it's was it 400 and 4,320,000, is that right? 4,320,000 for the whole cycle. Of course, there is what's known as, is it Divya Yuga? There's a certain crossover in between each yugas, sort of when one yuga changes from one to the next. It's a bit of a crossover there. But anyway, the time scale is given as 4,320,000 years. And so that seems extraordinarily long time. I mean, we can't calculate how long that is. Years ago I used to work in a hospital in Perth, and my shift was 8 hours, and sometimes there were, not much was happening and time was just dragging. It was just a boring day, and I keep looking at my watch and only 5 minutes had passed, and it seemed like an hour. My God, when is his day going to finish? But 432, 4.3 million years. I mean, we can't imagine that. But nevertheless, 1 day of Lord Brahma is 1,000 times the 4 yugas. That's 1 day. And his night is the same. So 4,320,000 times 1,000. That's his 1 day. That's in our time. From his point of view, there's just 1 day. He has a different concept of time. But in the lower heavenly planets, 6 months of our time is equal to 1 day on the heavenly planets. So it's a different concept of time. But so 1 day is 1 kalpa. It's considered 1 kalpa. So that's the measurement. And obviously, so that's 4.3 million years times 1,000 times 2. So that's 1 day and 1 night. And then you've got the whole year, and then you've got 100 years. So it equals to 311 trillion 40 billion years. So that's his total lifespan. So it's unconceivably, I mean, we just can't imagine that sort of time. But it's interesting to know there was one book put out recently by some of our devotee scientists from the Bhaktivedanta Institute. It's called The Big Bang and the Sages. And it was just sort of comparing the Vedic information on, universal aspects to where the scientists are, the modern scientists. And it's interesting to note that the modern scientists, their time, they're trying to date the age of the earth, the age of the sun, the age of the universe, etc., through so many different methods. And they've been doing it for, quite a few hundred years. And as time goes on, their dates keep changing. Of course, the Vedic conception, the age, the times, it's never changed. You see all the Puranas. All the Puranas have the same dates, the same length of time, and it hasn't changed for thousands of years. But the scientists, through their, different speculative methods, they're constantly changing. But at present, they've come to an age, I just can't remember the figures. I would have prepared if I knew I was here in class, but they've come to the age they've come to is actually, compared to the Vedic times, is only about 0.01% difference. So they're pretty close. It's not that the Vedas is close to them, they're getting close to us. So, So in that sense, it's good that, it's sort of confirming. It gives us faith that it's not simply we have to blindly accept the Vedas, the Puranas. The scientists also agreeing, practically that it's the same age. So that's quite interesting. So the duration of the creation and also the duration of such ages also tell me about the different activities, the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. So it is said that there's 8,400,000 different species of life within the universe. Of course, the species are not calculated according to the modern scientific method. They look at the bodily features and they analyse the different species according to the external body. The definition of species from the Vedas is based on one's consciousness. According to a certain consciousness, you're awarded a particular body. Like if you have a dog consciousness, you get a dog body. If you have, a tiger consciousness, whatever consciousness you've developed throughout your life, in your next life you're awarded a suitable body that matches that consciousness. 8,400,000 different species means 8,400,000 different types of consciousness is possible for the living entity to manifest. And it's said that Krishna, he actually expands as an incarnation in every one of those different incarnations at one time or another. But we have the primary 10, what's known as Das Avatar, or the 10 avatars of Krishna. And they appear at different times through different ages for different purposes. But it's interesting to see that some of them are not human-like forms. I mean, we have the turtle form and the boar form, the fish form, half man, half lion form. To their opinion, they worshipped the wrong God. They made a philosophical mistake somewhere along the line, and as a result, in one lifetime, and as a result, they're going to burn forever. And at the same time, they say that yes, God is very merciful. The two don't match up. So Ridhan Maharaj, he makes the point that if you're a parent and you knew that your child, due to a philosophical mistake, is being tortured forever, you would do your best to do something about it. If you weren't a psychopath, you'd do as a loving parent. So he makes the point, why should we worship somebody who's morally inferior to a human? That's the point he makes. So, of course, again, he says we know that, God is not a psychopath, etc., etc. But this is a presentation some people are presenting. That unless you, in our church or in our religion, you're going to hell forever. But God is very merciful. Anyway. So these different incarnations, some of these forms of Krishna, of course there's actually Vishnu forms. Krishna expands to Vishnu, and then most of these avatars, they're actually coming from Chiradoksha Vishnu, the super soul. He expands a lot of these avatars, and so some of them in non-human forms. So how to understand that? Why does he do that? Because if you read the pastime, there is a reason why he's taking these sort of animal forms to perform particular pastime, like a boar form, like a wild pig, Varahadev. So at that point, the earth had fallen down into the bottom of the Garbhodak Ocean, like a very muddy place. So he considered, well, the best form I can do to pick up that, is in the form of a boar, because a boar is very, quite happy in sort of dirty, muddy areas. So different reasons like that, but also perhaps more of a cultural point of view. We have indigenous tribes all around the world that have what they call their, what's the word they use? Not ancestors, like animal forms representing their families. What's that word they use? Totems, yeah. So different words, but totem, particularly the American Indians, they use that word totem. So each family, and sometimes even individual members in the family, have a particular animal or bird or something similar that is sort of representing their family line, or it's almost like their worshipable deity sort of thing. It's something, it's a form or an animal that they relate to very closely within their sort of, animism type, understanding of the universe. So like around here, I was told, we get a lot of these bush turkeys running around here. So apparently the local, the indigenous people in this area, their totem was the bush turkey. And according to some, Mount Warning is meant to look like a bush turkey. I've never really seen that. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong angle or something, but that's what I've been told. But the habits of the bush turkey is meant to be emulated by the people. Like for instance, the bush turkey that the father looks after. The mother throws up the big nest with its feet, it scratches, makes a big nest, lays the eggs, and then goes. And the father is meant to look after it. So reflection, like within their own life, the father should be very kind and considerate to the children. It's meant to reflect like that in their own life to some degree or another. So in other words, they're meant to emulate their the habits and the nature of their particular totem. So I guess in some ways we can see there may be some correlation, parallels with Vishnu appearing in a particular form. And, we have some sort of, I don't know what's the word, not sympathy, but some sort of empathy for that particular form, perhaps. Anyway, we could analyse it in different ways. But nevertheless, Krishna, he appears for different purposes in different forms, and basically it's for his enjoyment. It's not that he has to, like Prabhupada says, that he's not obligated to appear in any particular way. He says the Lord descends by his internal energy without any obligation to the laws of material nature, and thus his activities are also uncommon. So you usually get people that to some degree it's like, what's the word, anthropomorphism. Prabhupada uses that in the Bhagavad Gita. Anthropomorphism means giving God human limitations, or imitating God with human frailties. So that, when they hear about, Krishna appeared as a small boy and he lifted a mountain for 7 days on his left finger, says, that's impossible, But because he can't do it, therefore God can't. That's what anthropomorphism means. Because I can't do it, how can God do it? It's a little bit of sort of envy and arrogance there to some degree. But, Krishna, he does these pastimes to attract his devotees. For those who develop some love for Krishna, they become so attracted and spellbound hearing about the amazing activities of Krishna's incarnations. And when you hear more and more about your object of love, you become, that love increases more and more. You never fall in love with somebody you don't know. You'd say, you visit a person and said, I've got new neighbours. Geez, I love them so much. So have you met them? Oh, not yet. It doesn't happen. Or, it's like, I've got a new girlfriend. Oh, that's nice. What's her name? So, I'm not sure yet. Well, what does she do? I haven't really found out. Or where does she live? Well, yeah, we'll come to that, but I just know she's my girlfriend and I love her. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. But you do love people you get to know about. Like Rukmini is the classic example. That she had never met Krishna, but she heard about him from the different sages and yogis that would come to her father's court. And even though she was a young girl at 14 years old, she had given her heart to Krishna. He's the only person I can marry. You know, she had never met him, but she heard about him and that love had developed. So that's our situation also. We've never at least for myself, I've never met Krishna personally, but we're hearing about him every day. And that hearing about, and the more you hear about, the more that natural love will develop. So therefore, Maharaj Parikshit, he's asking all these questions. Of course, he's not just going straight, I want to hear about Krishna and the gopis and the rasa dance. He starts off, you know, the yugas and the avatars and the creation, like that. So, and slowly building up to the topmost leelas of Krishna. Okay, a few minutes left for questions. I'll end there. Thank you very much. If there's anything, comments, questions at all? Yes, Manager. We'll just wait for the mic so everybody can hear.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful talk. I was just interested to know more about the descriptions of the end of the Kali, either in the
12th canto. You can read. We haven't got much time to go through it all, but once you've read it, your conclusion will be the same as mine. We don't want to be there at that time. Yeah, but the 12th canto, it's full description. Yes.
So when you were saying about that experience with the Christians, what was your approach after that? Like, did you try to recommend a book as well for him, or like
try to recommend
a book from our tradition?
No, it's sort of you know, you don't really listen to what they say. They're not hearing what you're saying. You know, I mean, all you can really do is give them something to think about. You know, in the heat of the moment, they're very fired up to push their philosophy onto you. They're not going to hear anything you say, but maybe when they go back and think about, oh, what did that one say? That was a bit interesting, and you know, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. But, you know, I mean, our scriptures, they have full description of the heavenly planets and how to get there. But in the end, Krishna says it's only the less intelligent who strive for them. But nevertheless, it is a valid process. You know, it's not that worshipping the demigods, aspiring for the heavenly planets is not considered first class, but it is a Vedic process. So it's, you know, it's not that we should be condemning people like that. But what we could bring up is that you should learn more about what you're saying, rather than just throwing out very vague ideas of things you really don't know yourself. You know. So therefore, Prabhupada says it's very good you are distributing my books, but are you reading them? You know, we should know ourselves what's in the books, not that you should chant Hare Krishna. Why? Well, I don't know. It's just good. You know, we should go a bit deeper than that, you know. So, yeah. Anything else? Yes, Vaishnavi.
Thank you for the class. But you mentioned about it's not that we just jump and want to hear about the gopis and Krishna. So it's a gradual process learning about the incarnation and creation. So what about when people come to Krishna consciousness and they take it up very quickly? Then some people might question, oh, they're progressing so fast, but I've been here for years and I haven't been able to take initiation and progress. So if you could talk a bit about that.
Well, everybody's on a different level in their spiritual life. You know, we don't know what they've been doing in their past life. they may be very advanced and they're just picking up from their previous life, whereas for ourselves, perhaps, this is our first life, we've taken up spiritual life. So it's not a matter of comparison, and it's not a matter of competition either. And we should avoid being a little bit envious that, who do they think they are? I've been here for so long, but, they're giving class already, and whatever, it's easy to, compare yourself with others. But we should, we don't know what their situation is. Like for my daughter, for instance, I'll speak about her because she's not here, but when she was 1 year old, this one lady came to the temple. She was like a bit of a, healer, mystic, clairvoyant type person. She could see people's auras. And so my daughter, she came into the temple and she said, "Oh, that's a special baby." And I said, "Oh, why is that?" She said, "Oh, I can see her aura. It's silver with a gold rim." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. What does that mean?" She said, "It means she was a yogi in the last life." So, we don't know what people's backgrounds are. So the Krishna conscious mentality is not that we try to, bring them down, but we try to push them up even more. Like Radharani, she is always trying to push the gopis to associate with Krishna. And the gopis, they don't want to do that. They're trying to push Radha to associate with Krishna. So it's a competition like that. They're not thinking that, I'm the only one deserving Krishna's attention, nobody else. They're trying to push others there. So that should be our mentality also. That we don't become envious, but if we see somebody doing wonderfully devotional service, we're very happy and we help them to go further also. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.